I'm here in Milan for Arsenal's Champions League match at the mighty San Siro. This is today's Arsenal Transfer Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed the Arsenal Transfer Show. Join you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much as always for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a really good start to your week so far, that Monday treated you well and you're ready for an episode of Champions League football from Arsenal. Their penultimate league phase match, which takes place here in Milan, which you can see me. So apologies that the usual surroundings and audio might not be quite the same. I did bring the microphone with me, so I'm hoping that you can hear me as best as feasibly possible. Let me know in the chat box that it's coming through loud and clear. But good morning to those of you joining us so much, as always, for being here in the chat. Claire, good morning to you, to Glenn, to Paul, to Runs of Cows, to Matt G, to Mark. We've got Maria and Paul. We've got Aaron. We've got Blackshine. We've got Arasilki. We've got Pat. We've got Jeffrey and Carl, Paul, Knowledge, Roy, John. Good morning to you all. Shari and Maximius, thank you so much to all of you for listening. Greatly appreciate you being here. And let's not waste any more time. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode with Charles. Of course, we had to do a pre-recorded episode yesterday, or we did the recording on Sunday because I was flying to Milan yesterday on an early-ish flight, so I wasn't able to do the usual. But it did mean that we weren't in the know about the Aston Villa result. We didn't know the result of the game. We didn't know the result of what had happened and what had gone down. So, yeah, you all knew that Aston Villa had lost. I didn't know that Aston Villa had lost. Neither did Charles at the time that we recorded it. We didn't really talk about that anyway. We talked more about the Forest game. We talked about some individual performances. We talked about Declan Rice, a little bit of his outburst and stuff like that. So it wasn't really necessary or relevant to know it, but it would have added some important context to our conversations, and it would have added some important context to how we would have felt, I think, about that weekend, because in the end it ended up being quite a good week, and in the end it ended up being the perfect weekend, everything other than Arsenal's own game. You know, Arsenal managed to actually, despite not winning, extend their lead at the top of the Premier League table to 7 points over both Man City and Aston Villa, because both teams lost, and Liverpool drew, as well, which leaves them miles behind, 14 points currently behind Arsenal. It is quite the it's quite the reality for Arsenal, isn't it? Because I think the worry that we've got is that Villa or City or someone else, I don't know who, are going to take advantage of Arsenal slipping, of Arsenal's own issues. But are you really looking at Man City and Aston Villa right now and thinking that viably they're going to catch Arsenal? Because it doesn't feel that way. Losing Aston Villa to now 10th placed Everton, Manchester City losing to Manchester United, who will be coming to the Emirates, of course, this weekend in a really massive game at Arsenal's stadium. So, and that'll have a lot of implications, I think, for tonight and how I feel about tonight. And we'll talk about that as well. We'll get kind of a preview ahead of tonight's game as well. So don't worry, we've got that coming too. But it was a missed opportunity, no doubt. But we talked about the fact that I didn't feel as though Aston Villa were viably in the title race. I got called arrogant by a few people for doing it. I mean, they obviously look a little bit silly now saying that after Aston Villa were beaten at home by Everton. But this is one of the reasons why I don't personally consider Aston Villa as a viable contender in this title race, because I just feel as though that the XG has been far outperformed by Unai Emery's side, and squad size and Europa League and all of these things I think are going to come into a factor here for Aston Villa, and are going to catch up with them, and we will see more results like we saw at the weekend as well. Unai Emery's post-match interview, though, was, I don't know if you saw it, but it was bizarre. Really, really quite bizarre. So he's clearly feeling a bit of the pressure. And speaking of Unai Emery and how he compares to Arsenal's manager and other managers as well, Amazon Prime put out this graphic, which I thought was quite interesting. It's after, of course, the deal that sees Marc Guéhi and Antoine Semenyo join Manchester City during this January transfer window, they put out this graphic which shows you how much has been spent by managers since Pep Guardiola arrived at Manchester City in 2016. 2.05 billion euros has now been spent by Pep Guardiola since that 2016 arrival. A number of managers have spent over $1 billion in that time. Eddie Howe, I was going to say Ter Stegen then, but Erik ten Hag, Mikel Arteta, Unai Emery, Tuchel, Allegri, Conte, and Diego Simeone. Now, actually, I was quite surprised to see Unai Emery on this list. Of course, he was at PSG prior to his move to Villarreal and subsequently Aston Villa, of course, as well. But in this time, if Arsenal and Arteta do manage to win the league this season, they will have won as many league titles as Unai Emery has won in that time, of course, as well as manager of PSG, Villarreal and Aston Villa. So a lot of people, of course, consider Unai Emery the second best manager in the Premier League right now because of course, his achievements with Seville winning the Europa League on 3 consecutive occasions, but also for his work winning the Liga with PSG. I think if Arsenal and Arteta win the league this season, Arteta, for me, will be looking to eclipse Unai Emery in terms of kind of managerial pedigree. It would be the greatest achievement of either of those two managers up to the point this season, of course, winning the Premier League, the toughest league, of course, to win in the world. And having done so, having spent less during that time since 2016 as well. But, of course, Arteta's only been in a job since December of 2019, and that shows you kind of the reality of spending since 2016 and how clubs have spent more and more and more. I mean, Erik ten Hag being on this list is hilarious. And it's interesting, isn't it, as well, that Eddie Howe sits there having spent just around 80 million euros less than Arteta in that time as manager as well. So it really does show you kind of the spending levels and the volumes of Pep. Now, for me, I still consider Pep Guardiola the best manager the Premier League has ever seen. It's not just to do with spending. It's about how you use the resources available to you. And, of course, he's used them extremely well. However, it does showcase what Arsenal have been up against this entire time. It shows you what Arsenal have had to deal with and what they've been competing against this entire time. So, yeah, that is definitely something to consider when discussing what's been going down and what's been spent as well. But I mean, it shows Jurgen Klopp's not featuring on this list at all, showing you the achievement of what he did at Liverpool over those years as well. He, of course, did inherit a team at Liverpool that had recently competed for the title under Brendan Rodgers when he arrived. But since that 2016 point when Klopp arrived before 2016 at Liverpool, doesn't feature on this top 9 list. I don't know why it's 9. I don't know why there wasn't. I guess it's maybe because the manager hasn't spent over $1 billion. But yeah, it's Eddie Howe being there and Ten Hag as well is quite the insinuation about how much has been spent by managers. Gabriel Jesus spoke yesterday in the press conference. I was there, of course, at San Siro. First time I've been to the stadium. It is a staggering structure and quite sad, of course, as well, that we know that it's going to get knocked down in the coming years. And they're going to be rebuilding a brand new stadium for both Inter Milan and AC as well. So it's sad to know that that structure is going to be demolished because it is an amazing arena for football, and it will be sorely missed as well. I hope that there are some elements of the stadium that maybe are protected, like the spiral staircases, but it's just the whole thing. It's very sad. I wish they could just in some ways improve the infrastructure inside the stadium rather than having to rebuild a brand new one. But yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to say that we will see a game there as well. So I guess we will wait and see what happens in the future. But yes, Gabriel Jesus did speak to the media. Just before I go on to that, there is a special report from Mr. David Ornstein that has just dropped that I think we should probably discuss before we go into today's slides regarding the game today, and that is on the Athletic. I won't, of course, scroll through the entire article, because of course you need to be a paid Athletic member to do so. But yes, information that Ethan Nwaneri is the subject of loan interest from Marseille. Very intriguing indeed, because, and the reason why this is interesting at the moment is because we know that Arsenal have turned down a number of loan approaches for Ethan Nwaneri. We know that West Ham have had a loan proposal knocked back. We know that there have been supposed interest from some other clubs, but so far Arsenal have effectively just refused to really comment on it. The only reason we know about West Ham's loan proposal being knocked back is because that information came from the West Ham side of things. Arsenal have been very quiet on the front of this loan situation. So David Ornstein reporting just now this morning, exclusive, Marseille are working on a deal to sign Ethan Nwaneri on loan for the rest of the season. Not agreed yet. Would include a fee, but no buy option. Arsenal favour Marseille, of course, with having De Zerbi at that particular club and the playing style, but also Premier League and European interest. We've known that there's been a lot of interest in Nwaneri, but this is quite surprising because the sense had been, the feeling had been that Arsenal were knocking back, proposals, but it seems that maybe that is more down to Arsenal being cautious about a loan destination more so than just a blanket no on the number of minutes. But yeah, I mean, a loan for Ethan Nwaneri to Marseille, if De Zerbi, of course, can play that style of football, he's around, he would be with Aubameyang at Marseille. Would he be? Aubameyang's still at Marseille, right? So yeah, he would be reunited in some ways with Aubameyang. And that'd be quite interesting to see happen, I guess. But yeah, intriguing. Who else is at Marseille at the moment? Is Kolasinac still there? I don't know if Kolasinac is still there. I'd be surprised if he was still there. He surely has moved on by now. But Jeffrey Kondogbia is there. Matt O'Reilly's currently there on loan from Brighton. England international Angel Gomez is there as well. Igor Paxhao is there. Neil Maupay is currently playing for Marseille, of course, as well. So, yeah, some interesting influences currently playing and playing their trade under Roberto De Zerbi. But I guess I guess our initial feeling has got to be one of, well, positiveness, right? Surely we want him to play. We want him to get minutes. I still think there's part of me that thinks, can we afford to let him go, knowing the amount of injuries that we can suffer? And, it's just, I think there needs to be like a clause included in the loan that Arsenal can potentially terminate it. But I don't know how realistic that is. Usually those break clauses only are activated in the January transfer window. So difficult to see that happen. Difficult to see. Yeah, difficult. I don't really know how to feel about that. I'll get some of your thoughts in part 2 of today's show, and we'll discuss that situation that's just broken from David Ornstein in a little bit more detail. But yes, Gabriel Jesus spoke to the media and the press at San Siro yesterday, spoke on a number of different topics, but he spoke, interestingly, on Viktor Gyökeres. He could not have been more praising of Viktor Gyökeres. Of course, we would expect that. I think we can all agree that it's not exactly a surprise that we find ourselves thinking so positively of Gabriel Jesus and how he speaks about Viktor Gyökeres. But I'll get you the quotes. And this is what he had to say. He says, Vic is an amazing guy. Unfortunately, when he came, I wasn't there because I was injured and I was doing my rehab in Brazil with my family. I had a newborn there and stuff, but I wasn't there. But since I came back, we have good relations. We talk about football, obviously. We are the same age. And then I've played here in the Premier League longer than him. Sometimes I give him some opinions and sometimes he also gives about goals, about stuff. He's a top striker. He scored a lot of goals in his previous club. And I'm sure that he's going to find a way to do the same for us because this is good for us, because this is good for Arsenal, me, him, Kai, whoever, the wingers. Everyone wants to score goals. We have to take responsibility. We all have to score goals and we can share and we can win games by scoring. So, yeah, look, he's backing him. I don't think that's any surprise. I don't think that's a surprise to you. I don't think that's a surprise to me. That Gabby J is obviously backing. Gabby is backing Viktor Gyökeres, but it is going to be intriguing to see how this continues and evolves in the weeks to come, the dynamic between them. But the biggest news regarding Jesus was his words on his future and his contract. He said, like I said before, my wish is to stay at Arsenal. And then I have a contract as well. I want to extend my contract. I want to stay. I want to win trophies with Arsenal because I came here with the purpose, and that's it. But sometimes the reality is different. Like I said, my focus now is to stay healthy and then win trophies with Arsenal. So he wants to stay. He wants to remain here with his teammates. He wants to sign an extension. He wants to extend his contract. He's on a big wage at Arsenal, of course. He's not been able to play too many minutes whatsoever so far. But I think he made a joke saying like he's only played like 1.5, 2 seasons of his 4 years at the club so far. But he clearly is determined to play plenty more. So we shall see what happens. And Mikel Arteta, no team news in the press conference whatsoever. No updates. Ethan Nwaneri is with the squad. I should point that out, of course, with this news breaking around his loan move. So, yes, he is indeed with the squad, but so far, no further indication about a potential exit. There was some other quotes and some other comments in the press conference, of course, as well, on some of the areas that he hopes that Arsenal could improve him from last season's match. There was a impact emotionally he talks about, which is quite interesting, actually. He says, I don't know. Performance and results have an impact emotionally on the team to a level of confidence. We know that the match tomorrow is to come here and to win the game. That's a step that we didn't do last year. And we have to show that we are better than last year. And I thought, that's quite interesting to talk about the emotionally, how the results are having an impact on this team. So very curious indeed how Arsenal are going to respond emotionally through the rest of this season, how that weekend result is going to affect things for them as well. Genuinely, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to turn out. So I think this says that we have the mentality, we have the resolve, we have the resilience, and we have the focus to get through. But emotions play a part. And this team, we know and we can see it because we see it in their reactions that it's playing a big part as well. In terms of the questions that I asked Arteta yesterday and what I was focused in on, there was one question. The first question was about the next game. And I said, I know we always talk about the next game is the most important game. And Dharmesh from Sky had asked about the Man United fixture. So is this a week where the next 2 games are the most important games and they kind of both blend together? He says, we keep tricking the players. The next one is the most important one this season. And then 3 days later, the same. That's the demands. That's the expectations that we have. That's the standard that we have set as well as a team and as a club. And we are living with that joy, with the enthusiasm, with a lot of energy as requested. So ultimately, he was looking at this situation. He clearly feels that we are in a good place, but the standard needs to keep improving. The enthusiasm needs to go up. The energy needs to go up. So, yeah, let's hope that is indeed the case. And then, not cheekily, but I wanted to ask kind of a tactical question, a question about wingers, because we've been talking a lot about the way in which Viktor Gyökeres is benefiting or not benefiting from the type of wide players that he's got. When he played at Sporting, he would play with kind of these wingers that would put the ball into the box, that would cut the ball back. We weren't exactly sure what we were going to get from him. We weren't exactly sure what we were going to get from him as a centre forward with the type of service that he was going to get. So I asked him about the idea that in his system, we always seem to play with inverted wingers, with right footers on the left and left footers on the right. Stylistically, how does that work? Why do you benefit most from choosing that style of setup? And why is it the way of you approaching that kind of wing play? And he said, well, sometimes it's about the preference of the players, where they feel more comfortable. And the way that we are raising players at the moment, most of them want to play with the inverted foot. They feel much more comfortable in the manner that we play. We adapt to that. We adapt to the abilities, the qualities, and the fact that in some areas that we only have inverted footers, especially on the left. It is not ideal when that happens, but we adapt to the circumstances that we have available. So it's about style, it's about preferences, it's about how the players feel the most comfortable, and I think that's probably what we expected, is it not? So yeah, that's Arteta's thoughts. If you want to read the full transcript, you can do that on the football.london website. Right, we're going to go to part 2 now, which is a little preview ahead of today's game against Inter Milan, right after this. Right, this is part 2 of today's show. We're going to be jumping into the chat box and tackling some of your predictions and thoughts on today's game. But we're also going to look at what I have chosen ahead of this match as well for my team. And I'm telling you, full change. Rotate everyone. Change every single player, maybe except Raya and Saliba, because we don't really have too many options. Rotate as many people as feasibly possible. Raya in goal, Ben White at right back, Saliba and Mosquera, Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, Norgard, Marino, Nwaneri as the midfield 3, Madueke, Havertz, Eza. That's my team. Rest Saka, rest Trossard, rest Martinelli, rest Gyökeres, rest Jesus if you have to. I probably will see him play as well. Rest Rice, rest Zubimendi, rest Ødegaard, rest Timber, rest Gabriel, rest them all. Rest everyone. Give all these players a chance. Give all these opportunities to these players. Because for me, from a personal point of view, I love Milan. I love being here. I love San Siro. I'm very grateful. I'm very privileged that I'm here. But I don't care about this game. I don't really care. The reason why I don't care about this game is because of what is on Sunday. And what is on Sunday is so much more important. So much more important than this game. And the reason why it's so much more important than this game is because all Arsenal need to do is beat Kairat Almaty at home and we get top 2. We don't need, this game is not necessary for Arsenal. If we beat Kairat Almaty at home, you're guaranteed a top 2 spot. It is as simple and as easy as that. And I want every single, Man United are resting. They're sitting there on their deck chairs this week, recovering, preparing, getting ready to come to the Emirates on Sunday with a full week of rest. Rest the players. Rest your big players. Use your squad. Use all of these options. Give Havertz the exposure that he needs. Give Nwaneri the exposure that he needs. Give Norgard game time. Help Mosquera get back to fitness. Give opportunities to Miles Lewis-Skelly to find some form. Give Eza the opportunity to play. Rest players. Use the squad. Focus on the important match, which is on Sunday at the Emirates. This game pales in comparison to that game against Manchester United. Absolutely pales in comparison to it. So I can't wait for this game tonight. I'm really excited about being there and I'm really happy I'm here, but I don't care in relation to what is coming on Sunday. That game is so much more important. So focus on that. Arteta won't do any of that. Arteta will play a strong team. Arteta will play his best players. Yeah. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not expecting Arsenal to be rotating too much. I think Saka will play. I think Gyökeres will probably play. I think Ødegaard will probably play. I think Zubimendi will probably play. I think Gabriel will probably play. I think Timber will probably play. So I'm not expecting this. But tell me your predictions. Give me your thoughts in the chat box. Let me know what it is you think is going to happen tonight. I'm going to go for a 2-2. I want quite an entertaining game. I know Inter Milan aren't the most amazing kind of like entertaining team. They're more focused kind of around being rigid and aggressive, and that's how they tend to play. But you never know. We might get a really interesting fixture tonight and some great opportunities. Inter do currently sit top of Serie A. They have scored the most goals in the division so far with 44, and they have conceded the fourth least number of goals of just 17. 49 points from an available 63. So lost 4, drawn 1, and won 16. So plenty of quality and talent in Christian Kivu's side. Let's see what you say in the chat box. Arnold says Inter 0, Arsenal 1. Chris says 0-0. Neod says 1-0. Maria says 1-1. Maximia says 2-1. Eddie says 2-1 as well. So lots of positivity, and some people thinking it might be a bit of a draw, which I wouldn't. A draw is a great result. A draw is a really, really, really good result for this game. So don't feel bad if Arsenal draw this, because if they draw this and win against Kairat, they finish top. So happy days. Happy days indeed. Right, let's go to part 3. Your questions and more right after this. Right, this is part 3 of today's show, where we're going to be jumping into the chat box and tackling some of your questions. So if you've indeed got any questions that you'd like to ask, now is the time to do so. So throw them into the chat box and we'll try and get some of your thoughts, as many as we can, in the next 10 minutes. I do have to wrap up because I've got some things to do. There will be an episode of the Seeing Red Arsenal podcast as well out for you a little bit later on today before the Inter games. So, yeah, we'll mainly be talking about the weekend. We'll talk a little bit about Inter, but that'll be out of date quite quickly. And we'll talk about Ethan Nwaneri, of course, as well, and this loan situation that has emerged courtesy of David Ornstein's exclusive in the Athletic. The King says, on my way to Milan this morning, too bad, it'll be 0-0. I take it. Would not complain about a 0-0 at all. Lee says, Tom, did Arsenal miss a trick now Gyökeres has joined City? Not £300,000 per week? No. And he says, Tom, when do Arsenal come flying out and when are they rested? They come out slow. I mean, I don't think they necessarily come out slow every time they're rested. They mainly come out slow when they've played quite a lot of games. And I think we saw that and have been seeing that. We think about the Liverpool game, we looked tired. You know, we really did look tired for that game. I think we looked tired the other day as well after the Chelsea game, you know, against Forest. I think we looked tired and we didn't really make too many changes. So, yeah, I think tiredness absolutely features in these games. Reggie says, Tom, you talked me into it. I totally agree with your starters. I hope Arteta surprises us and does some rotation. Butzel says, what are your thoughts on a 3-5-2 formation? If defenders keep getting injured, it means we could see Jesus and Gyökeres in a front 2. I don't think we'll go to a back 3. I can't see Arteta playing with, on paper, a back 3. I can't see it. Neon says Dumfries is injured and he was Inter's best player last year against us as well. So it's a big loss. Martin says, Tom, do you think it's wise playing White 4 times in 10 days? Maybe not. It maybe raise a fair point, Martin, to be fair. But maybe he's back. Maybe he's able to do it. But equally, maybe he's not. Fuad says he needs minutes. Mikel obviously doesn't trust him off the ball and would never get in the team for important games. He would learn a lot under De Zerbi. That's Nwaneri. Chris says the cup-tied rule has always annoyed me. It should be scrapped. It's backhanded and was imposing trade restrictions as well. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it's right to have scrapped the cup tie rule. I definitely agree with you. Let's go to Miller. Says Gary Jacob with another clickbaity article about Arsenal and set pieces. It's getting boring. Did he? Staying in my hotel. Let's see what Gary said. What did he say? Where? The Times, Arsenal set pieces. Let me see if I can find it. Arsenal can't rely on set pieces forever, says good friend of the show, Gary Jacob. I can't read it because I need to use my login, which is going to take me a little bit to do. But it says, with star forwards off the boil and £64 million striker Gyökeres failing to register a shot in 7 league games, Mikel Arteta must find fixes for his faltering attack. I mean, we are quite reliant on set pieces at the moment. But the reality is that a lot of people on the outside view it differently to how we view it. I think it's fine. I think Thierry Henry spoke about it really well last night. I don't know if any of you saw some of his words about Arsenal. He basically said that we've been asking Mikel Arteta to find a way to win for a long time, find a way to win Arsenal the league. He's seemingly found that way with how Arsenal are playing this season. So, yeah, but I mean, Gary's got a bit of a point. Like, we do have to find a way of getting goals. Thomas says, I didn't write the title. Oh, Gary's probably right. You know, most headlines aren't written by the journalist who wrote the article. So there's also that to consider. So whenever you've been like moaning about a journalist and the headline in a piece, a lot of the time they aren't writing the headlines. I don't know if that's the case here, but just bear that in mind that most of the time the article is written by the journalist, but the headline is not. So always think about that. It's worth adding. I'm pretty sure Gary wouldn't have done the headline, but I don't know that for sure. I haven't asked him. I will ask him later. But yeah, I don't really see too much of a problem with that, to be fair. So Arsenal do need to find a way around it. Let's go. Tony says, Tom, didn't we build a big squad to rest players? So how are we tired? Tony, didn't you say that I was arrogant for calling Aston Villa out of the title race and then they lost to Everton? So, but in answer to your question here, yes, and we're tired because we still have a lot of games and fatigue builds up and injuries snowball. So it puts pressure on certain positions. So if you look at the defenders, we haven't been able to rotate them too much at all. So yeah, there is a tiredness. And even though that you have kind of like these small gaps between games, sometimes you do still play the same players in those fixtures because you need to. So, you know, you can't have it all. You can't have it all. Claire says, did you write the gonna be a toughie headline? No, I didn't. No, I don't do the Mirror's headlines. So in what you see in the paper, and if you pick up a copy of the Mirror this morning on page 57, you'll see my piece on Arteta and Jesus. So go and pick up your copy of the Mirror this morning. Page 57, you can see my piece. But no, I don't do those. I wish I could, because Smash and Gab was a great headline, and I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. That's our editor's job to do those. So go and have a look at it. Tony says, Tom, that could come back, lol. Yeah, like it didn't get to you. Arteta out says, why are people putting questions when it's not a question? Did we all miss school? I mean, you're the one asking if people missed school with your name being Arteta out. So when you want to talk about cleverness. Mr. Knowledge says, as long as the opposition are scared of giving away corners, we can rely on set pieces. Set piece again, ole, ole. Political Junkies is faltering attack. That's dramatic. I will predict that Arsenal is not going to dry out on goals. I will bet my houses on it. Are you revealing something about yourself there? Houses. Someone's a little bit well off, aren't they? John says, Tom wrote the headless body found in topless bar headline in the New York paper. I definitely didn't. That wasn't me, nor did I get involved in that, John. Thanks for that. Tunde says, hi, Tom. If people want to get a lot of attention on social media, they always talk about Arsenal. So a true Arsenal fan should ignore them. That social media is a horrible place. So I wouldn't necessarily really worry about it. Yeah, just try and avoid it as much as you can. The King says, please click the like button. Yeah, if you could click the like button, that would be absolutely brilliant. Please do click the like button and let us know your thoughts and feelings about everything that we've discussed today down in the comment section down below. If you're watching this on catch up, and drop a hype the video if you're watching this on catch up as well. You can hype the video by swiping the comment section to the left before you click it, and that'll allow you to, or it should do, depending on where you're in the world, hype the video. Maximus says, Tom, did you watch the AFCON final? What a shambles from the hosts. Good on Mane to lead his country to their second ever AFCON. Great leadership. And that towel incident was said. Yeah. So, look, there was two disgraces in that final. Telling the players to walk off the pitch is disgusting. And the manager should be ashamed of himself. But equally, like the individuals who were obviously helping the hosting of the competition, stealing the towels of the goal. It was an embarrassment. It embarrassed the African Cup of Nations. It undermined what had been an entertaining tournament. And it does seem that there is consistently with this tournament problems. But massive congratulations to Senegal. I would be personally saying thank you very much for helping us win the tournament, but I'd be getting rid of the manager if I was them after his behaviour, asking the player, you have to accept decisions. Like, I hate some refereeing decisions. I hate the standard officiating in the Premier League. It is horrendous. But if a decision's made on the pitch, you don't walk off. You accept it. You move on. It really is as simple as that. And he says, why is the club reluctant to brief players' injuries compared to last season? Nobody knows how serious is Hincapié and Calafiori's injuries and when they are back. It's not necessarily the club, it's Arteta. Arteta's reluctant to give us information on injuries. He doesn't want to give the opposition any insight, any knowledge, because, you know, clubs that are playing Arsenal in a few weeks' time, if he says that so-and-so is going to be back at this time and then suddenly they're back at that time, you've given the opposition insight into when they might be back. So, yeah, that's the argument. If it frustrates you, I empathise with you. It frustrates me, but also we have to accept it. You have to accept that that's what he wants to do. It's even more frustrating for me. I've got to try and write articles about team news, and I can't. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm not. It doesn't keep me up at night. I'll put it that way. Mark says, "Do you have anything more on what was upsetting Rice at the end of the Forest game? It seemed there's nothing more than what was done." I kind of gave my thoughts on that yesterday. I know a lot of you don't agree with me on how I feel about it. That's just how I feel. I can't dress up how I feel any differently to how I feel about the Rice thing. It irked me. I'm not going to apologise for something irking me. It just irked me. And I said how I felt. Charles seemed to feel a bit similar about it as well. So I know I'm not alone. I know other people feel the same way. I think just keep it in the dressing room is just my view on that. Claire says, could you imagine if managers ordered players off in the Premier League when decisions don't go against them? It'd take 3 weeks to finish a game. Absolutely, it would, yeah. Right, we're going to wrap the show up there. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early here in Milan, ahead of my flight home to talk about the game, talk about what happened, talk about any other transfer news, if Arteta's reacted to the story on Nwaneri. I'm sure if he is asked about it, he'll just say if there's anything to announce, we'll let you know. That usually tends to be his answer. Yeah, we'll wait and see. Thank you for listening. Drop a like, subscribe, hype the video, share it around, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your nan, your granddad, your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, whoever. Thank you for listening. And as always, the Arsenal.